It's a battle that has turned increasingly bitter. With every affidavit, every new claim and counterclaim, it's become now clear that neither side is willing to back off. Nor will Z Entertainment back down, nor will Subhash Chandra and his son, who's MD and CEO Punit Goenka, back down, and nor will Invesco and OFI Global, who own 18%, close to 18% of Z Entertainment. In today's latest development, the Bombay High Court that has been hearing the case and Z's request to stop the call of an extraordinary general meeting has given it a clear breather. Utkarsh Chaturvedi has more details.
Well, it's a big win for Z as of now in the whole Z Invesco case. The court has allowed and has given the injunction which they were really asking for. And now what we have been told at this point of time by the court is the fact that the plea of Z, which was to not conduct an EGM, has been accepted. We'll have to really wait and watch in the final order whether the fact that Invesco can also not go ahead and do the EGM is also mentioned or not, because according to the law, one is that Z has to call an EGM, or the company to whom the requisition is made has to call the EGM. And if the company does not do that, the minority shareholder can himself hold an EGM, and that is something which was being contested in the court as well. What Invesco had to say back then was that they do not have the resources to do it. What we'll have to really wait and watch, one, is that does the court order speak anything about this as well, because that will be important. And second, obviously, is the most important part, whether, or more importantly, when is it that Invesco might move Supreme Court in this order, because the NCLT hearing is tomorrow. The NCLT hearing has happened. It's only the Supreme Court, to be honest, which is left the doors to be knocked in this case by either party. And we'll have to really wait and watch, as I said, if and when that happens.
All right, Mohit Saraf joining us on the show. J.N. Gupta speaking with us today, as is Sriram Subramanian. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us. Mr. Saraf, let me begin by getting your view. Is this now a big win for Z as it's being described, considering it's in a sense temporary? But if you look at what the Bombay High Court is saying, it seems to agree that you can't call an EGM if the outcome of it will contravene the laws of the land. Does this now tilt a little bit in favor of Z?
I think as far as today's decision of the Mumbai High Court is concerned, definitely you can call it that it's a relief for Z camp. But we need to look at this entire thing which is happening on three key issues. One is whether the shareholder has a right to call the EGM. The second is, can a board reject calling an EGM because there are some illegalities purported? It's not proven. And the third is, can the court by itself step in and say, because they believe there are some breaches of law, therefore we cannot allow you EGM. And I think there is a detailed reasoned order, and I looked at the order of the Mumbai High Court, and really what they have the High Court has relied on is an 1884 judgment. And if you think about it, neither the public companies were there, neither the class actions were there, nor the rights to call board meetings were there. It's a different world in 1884. And therefore, I would say that Invesco has a very good case. I beg to differ on the rationale which the Mumbai High Court has propounded on. And they will probably go for an appeal to a division bench and then to the Supreme Court. Because I think the key question here is whether a shareholder has a right. Like if you think about it, Tamanna, it is almost like if the parliament is looking at passing a law which is anti-India, that the courts in India start giving injunction. Because anything can be passed and it can be debated, it can be changed, but the courts will definitely not give an injunction and stop parliament to pass the law. The EGM, the shareholder meeting, is really a body which passes law for the company. It's a similar body. And therefore, to tell them that what you are doing is illegal and therefore the meeting cannot be called, I think in my view, goes back a lot on the minority protection rights. And we rank actually, Tamanna, whether you realize that we rank 7th in global index on minority protection. So I would say this is a very, I'm not able to appreciate the comparison, but I would say that it would get challenged at the division bench and then the Supreme Court. And definitely this is a temporary relief. And we have to see how the things changes, because even under Section 430 of Companies Act, there is a clear ousting of jurisdiction. And typically a civil court, a high court, should not have taken the matter. This belongs to NCLT or NCLAT. And this is like nothing but forum shopping. So I think it's a pretty interesting jurisprudence. And I would say that this will be heavily litigated. And I hope it doesn't send a wrong precedent.
Yeah, and Jain Gupta, your view on what this really means for the rights of minority shareholders, and the bigger question, can we assume what the outcome of an EGM is before it's even called? From the way it's being resisted, there seems to be a concern that the outcome of the EGM will be exactly what Invesco wants. Yes, they do have close to 18% with OFI, but there are a lot of other shareholders.
Tamanna, good evening. I would say let me start by what Mohit has said, and then I will answer everything. Mohit's first thing was that do the shareholders have a right to call for the meeting? Yes, they have a call to right. Second, whether the board can reject? Yes, board can reject. Third is whether a meeting which is called for doing something which on face of it may result into illegalities. Can this be done? I would say no, it cannot be done, because there are two types of illegalities. One which can be cured and which cannot be cured. So any illegality which can be cured by subsequent action, there is no problem. But a illegality which cannot be cured cannot be done. And I will tell you, the Invesco things have couple of things. One is they are appointing independent director. Now, if you go to the definition of independent director, it says who in the opinion of the board is independent. Now, in this case, it presupposes that the board has to first decide. Now, you can't say the first you appoint, then they become part of the board and they will decide their own independence. That is not the case. That is one. The second thing it says that ministry approval. I think it is a curated thing. Anything which says article of association, again, it can be curated. But certain things which cannot be curated is this. That is one. The second part is this. I am not talking about on the merits, because none of us have any reasons in detail why Invesco wants it, and Invesco may be 100% right in what they want to do it. But since I cannot comment on the merit, I will not. I am just restrictive thing. Then Mohit said that there is no business of High Court to get into it. And I would say there is no business of High Court, nor even NCLT, nor NCLT. And I will tell you why. Because Invesco's notice is under Section 100 of the Companies Act. And probably in the entire Companies Act of 500 sections, this is only one section which provides a remedy also. The remedy is that if the board fails to call for EGM, the shareholders themselves can call. Now the power is with the shareholder, and the company is duty bound to support the shareholder in doing the meeting. And I will tell you why this has been provided. Because tomorrow it can happen that in order to harass the board or in order to harass the competitors may keep on giving notice for EGM. And since there is no cost involved to the competitor, so every time the board and the company will have to call the EGM and go through that thing. So in order to bring some sort of a sincerity and seriousness in the notice, it is maintained. And NCLT, NLT, because if a remedy is still provided, where is the problem? Now when you say that provide me remedy because I am residing in US, I don't think this is a logic, because if you can hire a legal team here, if you can hire so many things here, you can hire an agency which will be doing all this legwork for you. So once again, I am making clear that I am not talking on merits or something of the issue involved, because I do not know what are the governance issues they are
Yeah.
saying. But purely on the
But
legal
I mean,
perspective,
now the question of Invesco calling, sure, now the question of the shareholders calling an EGM in a sense becomes moot, because the Bombay High Court has stepped in and
Correct.
passed an injunction against it, so no one can call an EGM. I'll come back to you on that, sir. Let me just get
Correct.
in
Tamanna,
Sriram
actually,
Subramanian's view as well. Sriram, great to have you on the show. Just your take
My take
Just
is,
your take,
see,
Sriram, on how all of this has been unfolding. I know we're talking about the Bombay High Court decision today. I will come back to all of you, gentlemen, if there is anything that you want to refute. Let me just go to Sriram first. We've been talking about the Bombay High Court's decision today, but I want you to give us a larger picture, because in the last few weeks, there is so much bitterness and ugliness which has come out. Claims have been made that Invesco is acting with vested interest, is representing a party that wants to take over the group. Then a huge conglomerate comes and says, hey, we did have a meeting, but we have no interest in any kind of hostile takeovers. Sony Pictures is also involved in all of this, wondering what's happening to that proposal. So how do you look at all of this unfolding, and is shareholder value being upheld or destroyed right now?
so I think, good evening, everyone. This provides probably a breather to all parties involved to take a step back and look at what has transpired since September 11th. At the end of the day, if one is to work for a win-win, probably this is the moment. And at the end of the day, work for the win-win, work for the what is to happen for the good of the company and the shareholders at large. At the end of the day, the Sony deal was announced on September 22 after the Invesco EGM requisition. So from a larger perspective, if the deal is good for all the company and for the shareholders, what is the purpose that this EGM is going to serve? And at the end of the day, even after, if suppose some of these actions were sort of taken place, then what would happen to the deal itself? And one, two is, if Mr. Punit Goenka is removed as a managing director, then what would happen to the deal? Because that presupposes that Mr. Goenka would be the MD. So at the end of the day, many of these questions, I think Invesco as a large shareholder would also probably use this opportunity as a breather to reflect and probably work towards a win-win. I think this, even for the company, otherwise it's going down a path of attrition, which is not healthy for the company, and it could eventually end up destroying shareholder value.
After all of this, Mohit Saraf, I know you wanted to come in on the previous point, so please do that. But after all of this, do you think there is an opportunity for a win-win kind of situation as far as Z and Invesco is concerned?
This is a very interesting position. Companies run by shareholders. They own the shares. They have voting right on the shares. They have a right, and they cannot run by 18%. They cannot run by 4%. They need to pass resolution by 51% or 75% in certain cases. Board is appointed by the shareholder. Board had a fiduciary duties. Shareholders have no fiduciary duties. So really what we are saying is, now the board will decide what the shareholders wants. So the board will come and veto a shareholder right. This is an unbelievable exercise. Really, law, we are talking about curative law. If there are 7 names given, there can be 10 more names be given at the shareholder level. When the shareholder meeting is called, people can give more names. The majority of a shareholder has to approve. It is only a name. All the names can be rejected, but not allowing a shareholder meeting to come because it will be violative and it will be non-curative. How can it be non-curative? when a board of directors is appointed, because it's in media, it requires an MIB approval. So it will go and get the MIB approval after a person is appointed. So I don't understand curative, non-curative. Really, what we are trying to say is a company can be run not by majority shareholder. It can be run by somebody who was long time back appointed and would not respect. Really, at the end of the day, here we are talking about is whether a shareholder has a right to call EGM. The answer is yes, he has a right. If he fails, if the company fails, can he do everything to call himself? Yes, he has. What has the court said? You cannot call. The court has said in Invesco, even if you have people to support you, now you cannot call EGM because we are injuncting you. And the question here is that is that in accordance with, I think, and we have to understand whether there is a other rationale. Is it right? Is it as per the scheme of law under the Companies Act, under the takeover code, under the minority right, under the voting right, or it is not? And I think that is a question which needs to be looked at. And I'm sure Invesco and other shareholders will look at it. And then it would have to go to probably most likely to appeal. Because really, this is the critical question. The question is not who is going to fight on and what are they going to raise. The question is, do you have a right? Do you have a right to vote and right to reject? The answer is you have a right to vote and a right to reject. But what happens if you don't call the EGM? You neither have a right to vote nor you have a right to reject. And that is a question.
Yeah. Okay. Jayan Gupta, do come in. I know you wanted to make a point, but on this particular point that Mohit Saraf is raising, at least give shareholders an opportunity to accept or reject whatever points are made.
Tamanna, I agree with Mr. Saraf and I agree with you. My point is very simple. The law provides an opportunity for the shareholders to themselves call the meeting. The problem happened when they approach NCLT ab initio on whatever date, when there was no cause of action. They created a legal problem. But secondly, I would say that when Mr. Saraf is saying curative, non-curative, what I mean to very simply, when there is a eligibility criteria, you cannot say that I will meet eligibility criteria after I am selected. You got to meet the eligibility criteria, but there could be certain things which can be provided after you are elected. So when I'm saying approval for ministry can be always opt-in post facto, there is no problem. But independence, since the independence, whether it is right or wrong, the law says that he should be independent in the eyes of the board. Now that is not done. And it cannot be said that it will be cured later on. That is one. And again, I'm saying I am not representing G or Invesco in any manner. I am not connected with any company. But I am, as an individual, analyzing that I do not know what is the merit. I will explain to you that one of the proposed appointees is my friend. But still, I don't know, because I am going to say what is the legal position. The second is this: the right is available to the shareholder, but the right is available to the existing board also. Now, if there is no confidence in the board, the shareholders have a right to remove the board. I am not denying that. But there is a procedure. The Section 100 had already provided something. You went to the court, G went to the court, and now the High Court has intervened, and High Court has said that if agenda item per se is going to create illegality, you cannot proceed. And I do not have the wisdom which is higher than the High Court to let the courts decide.
Yep. No, clearly the legal battle does not end here. It would be very unlikely, actually, if the legal battle did end here. Mr. Subramaniam, just if I asked you to look at how you think both sides are going to come out of this. One is Subhash Chandra and Punit Goenka, who've dug in their heels. Mr. Subhash Chandra wants to be heard by the NCLT as well. And on the other side, you have Invesco and OFI, who don't seem interested in walking away from this particular fight. how do you see it all panning out?
No, first of all, we obviously each party would try to sort of express their views or hold on to their positions. That was to be expected, right? I mean, Invesco should have expected it. Z also should have expected that tenacity of probably Invesco. But at the end of the day, why send it down a path of attrition? And even last year, Invesco in 2020 appointed Punit Goenka. Two is they are at the end of the day, they have admitted in NCLT itself that they are for the Sony deal. They are not against the Sony Z deal. So at the end of the day, there seems to be if both parties stick to their positions, it may be at the point of brinkmanship. But at the end of the day, if there is some amount of stepping back and looking at things, maybe they can work out something which is for the good of the company itself.
Tamanna, I want to make a point.
Yes.
Tamanna, I want to make a point that if you look at what is happening, even when the Reliance deal was proposed, Punit Goenka was to continue. So that means as late as February or March, there was no problem of Invesco with the Punit Goenka. That is based on what is the newspaper report. I do not know the fact. But as it is reported that even in Reliance deal, Punit Goenka was to continue, and that deal was facilitated by Invesco itself. So I don't know where is the truth lie.
But I think there is one more question. Tamanna, can I interject here?
Yes, sure.
The critical question is whether it's Reliance, whether it's Sony. The shareholder has a right to choose. If the shareholder believes that the present board is not independent, the shareholder has a right to change the board. And therefore, this has to follow. I think the question that at some stage Punit Goenka was supported or not supported is irrelevant to the discussion. The way when the Fortis deal was there, the shareholders changed the entire board and they conducted an auction process where the best deal was there. So I think right now to say whether this guy should continue or that guy should leave is not the part of the discussion. The discussion is the shareholder has an inalienable right to choose what is good for them, not the board. The board has a fiduciary duty. The shareholder is changing the board. They have lost the confidence of the board shareholder. If that is the case, we cannot create, a superstar in the board and say the shareholder right is actually subject to a board right. And I think in my view, an auction has to be conducted. That is the right process. And let people vote. Neither Mr. Gupta will vote nor I will vote. The shareholder will vote. And whoever gets 51% or 75% vote will be the deal. Yeah. And therefore, we cannot say because somebody had supported some deal at some years back, now that person should have a right to continue that support. I think in my view, that's a very illogical argument.
Tamanna?
Well, it's clear that this is just a pause in this, big drama that we're seeing. I do have to wrap now, Mr. Gupta. Is that okay? Or, can you make your point just very, very quickly?
It's very important because what Mr. Mohit Sadaf said, that it is a very illogical argument. I don't buy that idea for the simple reason that as a shareholder, suppose I was a shareholder, I will neither believe Punit Goenka blindly or nor Invesco blindly. I am asking as a simple shareholder, tell me what it is that changed your opinion from March till now. If you are able to convince me, I am with you. If you are not telling me the truth, so here the problem is there is no transparency. Because I was till yesterday propagating a deal where I was ready to continue with Punit Goenka. Today I am not. So tell me what happened in between that you find which is so important that the shareholder should support you. Give me the reason. I am supporting you. But you are not giving me the reason. You are just saying that I want to change. I have been saying right from the beginning that it is not on the merit. Merit will be decided because I don't know whether the Reliance deal is good or Sony deal is good because I am not going to vote on that. I'm not evaluating it. So it's not the shareholders' right to vote. But again, I am saying, I as a shareholder would need transparency. What is your reason? What is in behind your action? If you are able to give me in a black and white, these are the reason X, Y,
Yes.
Z. I am unhappy with Punit Goenka. I am supporting you.
I am sure all of these aspects, I'm sure all of these aspects will be unfolded over the days to come. This is not the last we've heard of this big corporate fight. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on this discussion.